Okay, we are here for our Family 460 Wednesday 10 a.m. meeting. My name is Carrie Hunt.
My name is Karen Waite.
And my name is Kelly Martin.
And we are discussing the definition of the family today. And with a list of 7 possible definitions for the family, we're going to discuss kind of how to put those in order of which one we think maybe most closely defines the family. I thought that for number 1, a fundamental social group in society typically consisting of 1 or 2 parents and their children. I don't think there's a right answer. Kelly, you said which one again?
I said number 2, 2 or more people who share goals and values, have long-term commitments to one another, and reside in the same dwelling place.
Yeah, I put that one as number 2 because I really like that as well. And Karen, which one did you think?
I put a group of persons sharing common ancestry.
Yeah, that's definitely a family too. And so, do we have to, in this discussion, come to a consensus on that order, or do we just talk about what we thought? You know?
I thought I read something about a consensus of something.
Yeah, I don't know if it was about the questions or what, but
yeah. Well, the reason I didn't put the first 2 that you guys did is because I was thinking, okay, you know, like in that video with the 2 guys that are gay, and you know, they live together, they consider themselves a family. I mean, this doesn't specifically say a male and a female, you know what I mean? Like,
none of them do, yeah.
Because, yeah, these days, family, we know, is changing the definition of it, and people are considering anybody that, you know, that you live with, that you have the same goals and share the same goals and values, and you have a long-term commitment to each other. You're a family.
Yeah.
I think that from each of these definitions has something in them that is true about them, but
yeah.
I mean, even like common ancestry, that doesn't include people who are foster children or adopted or even married, because you don't have a common ancestry with the person you marry.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But that is a family too. Like that's your ancestors, that's your family. So all of them mean family, but you know, if we were to define a family as far as the fundamental unit of society, the one that God, you know, wants us to live in here on this earth, of course we would say a male and a female that are married, and either they're biological or adopted children, or any children that come into their home, you know, 'cause sometimes we have other children that we take care of, that are in their home and they love and they care for, you know, but there's not on there. So
that's right. Yeah.
Which I think probably is the point of this exercise, is just to show that there is no easy definition for family, and there are certain, I think at least, and maybe you guys do, there are certain like definitions, like the word marriage, the actual definition of that really does matter. Like, I looked it up today in the dictionary on my phone, and there's like 12 definitions for marriage. It was really interesting. And it did say, you know, I'm sure this definition has changed. Of course, they've added, you know, same-sex or opposite-sex partners who live together, but that definition really does matter, because how it's defined, it sort of gives it you your legal rights, everything. So family, I think, is a little more loose.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it's really hard, like, I think it was in this class on the discussion board. I think it might have been the guy that's supposed to be in this group, brought up that it's kind of hard to defend the family, or the definition of family, I think is what he said, without, you know, like without going into religion, you know.
Oh, yeah, I think it was him, yeah.
You know, and so anyway, it is hard to determine really what the right definition is without start talking about, you know, God and that, but
exactly. Oops. Okay, So, which one you least agree with? And then I guess, is there one that you least agree with on that definition?
The bottom of my list was number 6, a group of like things or a class. I just thought that was really vague. And it
That's-
could
And that's how
mean,
they define like animals, right? There's like
yeah, it
penis,
could be
family,
everyone who's at the grocery store.
right.
They all like things at the grocery store. Like, it was just really vague.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That's the one I had as my last one as well.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on then. Says that in the President Henry B. Eyring speech that he gave at the Vatican, I guess we can just kind of talk about that and talk about Julie B. Beck's, and then we'll answer the questions. Or maybe we just go into, did you have any thoughts on Henry B. Eyring's speech? Anybody?
I loved it. I have a sister who's 30 and a sister who's 25, and they're both single. And they tell me all the time at their wards, they meet these boys who say, well, I'm going to get married after I finish medical school, or I'm going to get married this time. And I love that he addressed that, and the fact that he became a better person when he married his wife and was able to do, better things. And I think that that's lost on a lot of young people nowadays.
Yeah,
they think, I have to finish this. And it's like, no, but this will help you get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Don't they always say that guys, once they get married, their grades, they do better in college?
Mm-hmm.
They, think about it. There's 2 people taking care, of the needs, of one household now. So you just have someone who's supporting you, and, So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, it can be done. I mean, look at how many people do it.
Right.
Like, I'm so amazed at some of these people like that are in my ward. They're really young. They have like 3 kids, 3 and under or whatever, and the husband is still in school, and and somehow they do it, and they're very happy. And and I have my best friend is single. She lives in Salt Lake, and she's 47, and she, almost every guy she dates is like, they have a hard time committing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them just have a really hard time thinking about being responsible for somebody else and having a family and having to support a family.
And that was what was so tender about him sharing a personal experience while he shared that, a principle about, I think his point was, how to have a marriage renaissance, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I like how that.
People are very, I feel like, people are very blinded, and it's just been a crafty little package that's been fed to all of us in our society, since the 60s or whenever this kind of all started, that it's inconvenient and life should be lived first and foremost for ourselves. And he really rebutted that, I guess. So, do you think, okay, so let's go to these questions. How well do you think the average young adult understands, then, the doctrine of the family?
I think they could tell you what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they have like a real deep testimony of the truth of it.
Yes.
But I think they know it and the importance of it.
Yeah.
And what about you, Karen?
Well, it doesn't specifically say whether they're a member of the church or not. I mean, obviously, if you're a member of the church and you're a young adult and you grew up in the church, you've been taught it your whole life, so you do know what it is. But it's one thing to just know what it is and be able to say, what it is, but it's another thing to actually obey it and,
Totally.
follow and have that leap of faith to just do it.
And think about it, too. Think about the things you've already just read, even just this week in this class. I mean, haven't you, as an adult, learned some things about what marriage is really about, even though you already believe in marriage, really about the doctrine of marriage, about gender and how we complement each other, and how, that's, I think we learn about marriage as we go. Even you become more converted to marriage, hopefully not less converted to it, but as we learn more about it, at least I have really understanding what it's all about, not just this is what you do, you know.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like, I think most young adults, even in the world or whatever, it used to be that generally people did believe that marriage was like a community thing, a thing with the church, between them and the church, between them and not just LDS, but the church they were married in,
Right.
between them and God, between them and the community, not just a private, private contract between two people. And of course now it's for sure it's just a private contract between two people, nobody else's business what happens with that relationship. And that is what young adults, I think, see marriage as, and a lot of LDS young adults too.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's important? I think we kind of covered that. It says to study this at the beginning of the semester as opposed to the end. What do you think, Kelly?
I mean, I think that ultimately the family is the foundation of everything. That's what they tell us. And so it's important for us as we learn about advocating for the family to have a deep testimony, I guess the only word I can use, of the importance of it. And so I think that's why this week got me all riled up. I hate having to watch videos from The View. I hate it.
Oh my God.
I know,
it drives me nuts. But
I know.
I think that that's important, that like it lights that fire in us. And
yeah.
Yes, that's a good
crazy.
point.
Like, I just couldn't believe. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
they were saying, it's all about me. It's all about me, 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 me. You don't have a right to tell me what I can do with my body. And
Yeah.
It's like, why can't they see it? It's so selfish.
Yeah, that's a good word, selfish.
Yeah. So I agree with what both of you said, and like what Kelly said was that even though we might not be able to testify in our secular work of an actual doctrine, if we don't have that as a foundation, then really what is there to fight for? If we don't really have a vision of what the purpose of our being on earth is, which is to live in families, then why even try? Might as well just all give up like everybody else, because it's a lost cause. There's no use fighting. But if you believe in the doctrine of it, you know that the whole human family needs to be sealed together as families and save their families. Then it is worth fighting for, whether they're members of the church or whether they believe it or not. It's something. So okay, next question. And this may have been addressed in some of these, maybe we talked about it, but what doctrine or principle, if understood, would motivate a Latter-day Saint to advocate for the family? We kind of just said this, I feel like, but is there a specific doctrine in this? And I just said, that in order to have the earth not utterly wasted at the Savior's coming, all of us need to be linked together in families. Mm-hmm. And the family is the order and structure of heaven, and so that is the work of this earth, is to organize us into those families and unite us. So I guess that the more healthy families there are, the more prepared they will be to receive the gospel later on, or whatever.
Yeah, I think as far as advocating for the family, I mean, I've always just thought there's got to be some way to teach, because there's so many like good people out there that have kids, and just my kids are older and stuff, and just like I remember going to concerts at my kids' schools, and these 7th and 8th grade girls are wearing these totally short dresses, and really like spaghetti strap dresses, and I mean, like, their parents don't teach them about modesty. I mean, that's not even a huge thing, really. And some of these parents are good parents, but they just don't teach their kids. And I just think there's got to be a good way to somehow help parents understand how important, these things are, and how it's going to have a lasting effect on their kids. And just to teach them values and morals, and respect their body, and I don't know.
Well, it
We
sounds
just
like what you're
don't
saying
do
is,
it.
the doctrine is that primacy, that the primary importance of the influence that a parent can have on their child. If you understand that doctrine, then
Yeah,
in empowering parents to realize, listen, you can educate and teach your children, these things in your own homes. It doesn't have to be just however the rest of the world is.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And so many parents think that, you know, they're not going to try to force their kids in any way or, one way or the other. They're going to let their kids make their own decisions. I think that is so prevalent that, parents just don't want to teach their kids one value or another. They want their kids to figure out their own values, which, in a way you need to, but you got to give them some kind of foundation and
Totally.
and
Right.
then let them choose,
Yep.
And I
Anyway,
think that's perfect. I think there was that quote from conference not too long ago where, if we don't teach our kids, the world's going to teach our kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
And when all this happened, and I knew that I had to, I have a 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they would come home with questions or hear things, and so I knew I had to teach them what same-sex marriage was and why we as members of the church don't believe in that. And it's not that we don't, one second left, one second, that we don't like people who are gay or who are for same-sex marriage. And but it's hard, because kids, and probably especially teenagers, they go out there, and if they voice these views, they're immediately called names, and people tell them, well, you hate these people, when none of that is true. And
right,
so I
Yes.
think we just have to reinforce it at home with our kids. And and it's sad because I think especially as far as same-sex marriage, I think the minority is just a lot louder than the majority.
yeah,
And
And oftentimes more cunning and subtle, and
mhm,
which is why I think it's a blessing that so many of us can be at BYU Idaho majoring in marriage and family studies, because
yeah,
we just sit back and let it happen. Some of us, I
yeah,
do. I
right,
just say, well, that was what was voted on. This stinks, but as long as I teach my
yeah,
kids. But in reality, we do have to understand the doctrine and be willing to fight for it.
mhm, yeah.
Um, okay, let's see. Which okay, it's from the Julie B. Beck article. She said, what doctrines tied to the family are most significant to you and why? And some of the doctrines that she talked about were like the creation, the fall, the atonement, qualifying for eternal life. I don't know.
temple
Do
ordinances
you
and
remember some of the
covenants.
things from her article that you liked?
Mhm. I liked when she talks about needing to understand the command to multiply and replenish the earth, that still remains in force today. And then one thing she said that really hit me was she talked about any doctrine or principle our youth hear from the world that is anti-family is also anti-Christ.
I wrote
Yeah,
that down too. I liked
Yeah.
that.
I thought
Yeah,
that
and
makes it really simple.
what's interesting? I don't know. Like, our ancestors, they didn't have to sit down and teach their children that marriage is, between a man and a woman, or
Mhm.
that they should have children someday. It's natural and it's right,
Yeah.
but we are living in a world that's without natural affection anymore, and people say, yeah. Anyway, so we are all the time preaching. We have 6 children. They're all in home from first grade to senior year. And literally, I am preaching family all the time. Every scripture study, every family home meeting, there is something about the doctrine of the family. And I just am amazed at how, sorry, something just popped up on my head. I'm just amazed at that responsibility we have to not just assume that they're going to get it. Even at
Mhm.
church, even just sending them to church, you have to proactively teach your children about having their own children someday, what it's like to be married. I'm always saying to my children, you have to get along right now with your siblings, because you're going to be a husband someday. You're going to be a wife someday. What are you going to do with your children? How are you going to treat them? And how are you going to be prepared to get married?
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I think in her talk, I also like the part where she says many youth have insufficient and underdeveloped social skills. which are an impediment to forming eternal families. They are increasingly adept to talking to someone 50 miles away and less able to carry on conversations with people in the same room. And I don't know, it made me think of, this is kind of silly, but my daughter is in the 8th grade. She doesn't have a phone, but she has a tablet that my husband, he works for Intel and he got it from his work, and we can use them for as long as we want to. But anyway, so she texts on that. And this boy at school liked her, and he would text her and stuff, but he would he would never actually talk to her at school. It's like he didn't know how to talk to a girl. But, it's easy to do it on the phone or whatever, and he would really not even say anything. He would just say one-word things. Like, it was just ridiculous.
Well, and it's so funny that you bring that up because I have 4 sons, and one of them is 10th grade, one's 8th grade. So the 8th grader is about to turn 14 and get ready to go to dances. But I practice conversational skills with them. I'm like, okay, guys, let's pretend like you're at the dance, Okay. And I had the older brother tell the younger one, okay, how do you ask a girl to dance? Okay, now once you're dancing, what kinds of things can you say to keep a conversation going? And we were just talking about I
did that with my son too.
Yeah, and it's just funny, they had to be trained in that. Oh, and then I was just like, you know how the catchphrase for everything now for teenagers is ooh, awkward. Awkward is their favorite word to use. Everything's awkward. I was like, hey, guess what? If you ever want to get married or go on a date, you're going to have to do something that might feel a little awkward, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's not funny. It's like...
Yeah, and we laugh about it, but imagine...
It does impede them socially.
Sort of intimate relationship because they can't even talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's sad.
And it's just weird that it's come to that, But anyway, I think that's so true that they have to learn how to socialize with each other. Even my daughter that's at BYU, Idaho, she got home from her mission in August, and she's kind of shy, and, but she's really quite immature when it comes to dating and talking to boys and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, some of your friends are married, and some of them even have 1 kid.
Right.
And it's like, you've got to learn how to be around boys and talk to them and stuff.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
I don't probably think it's because of the, texting and stuff. I think she's just a little bit immature that way, but.
She's shy. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Okay. So the assignment said that at the end of our discussion, we should have one of the group members make a summary statement of what our group consensus is to discuss questions. So since I led the conversation, I'll make the summary statement, and then next time somebody else can do it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Is there anything else you guys want to add before I do that?
Nope. I think we hit on a lot of great things.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So in summary of our discussion today, we talked about the definition of family being difficult to define in our day, and that there was a general consensus between us that we didn't feel like a perfect definition of the family was written in those choices that we were given. But if we were to make our own definition of the God, ordained family, it would be male and female who live together in marriage, and any children that they have or that they adopt and that they care for in their home. But we discussed that the confusion about the definition of family and the many definitions of family tend to perpetuate the problem with families today. And then we discussed that many youth and adults and young adults don't really understand truly the doctrine of family. But if they did, the eternal nature of families and the complementary roles of men and women, they would be more capable and able to enter into that. And we talked about how Julie B. Beck told us that we have to actually teach those principles to our children actively instead of just assuming that they're going to understand it and know it naturally. And we discussed the importance of learning, and really the foundation of the doctrine of the family at the beginning of the semester is vital, because once we form that foundation, we will be more able to, with passion, advocate for the family today. So that's kind of a summary of what we talked about. And yeah, anything else that you want to add?
No, that sounds
Nope.
great.
Alrighty, we will, I'm sure, be on the discussion board talking about when we have to meet next, but thank you for being here.
All right.
I will post this, I'll post this link.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
Gary.
sounds good. Hey, before you turn it off, and then I need to ask Kelly something.
Okay.
Before she hangs up.
Oh, oh man, I hope this didn't freeze up on my computer. Okay, I really hope this worked, but okay. Yeah, I stopped the actual broadcast, hopefully.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Okay.